Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and guys, today I'm coming to you guys with another Switch video, and today's Switch is going to be another Wingtree Switch. Now, we do have to thank Unikeys because Unikeys has been really great in terms of sending me out so many different Switches. I've been doing a lot of different Switch testing reviews for you guys, and it's all thanks to Unikeys. They've been sending us so much. Now, one thing that I've noticed about the Wingtree set in general is that they are really kind of cost effective. Like, what I mean by cost effective is that you really get your money's worth with like this nice box and also a a storage bin or storage container for the Switches, which is awesome, especially for the price that you're paying. And overall, their Switches have been interesting, right? We had one that was supposed to be a kind of like a homage to the MX2A Blacks, and then we had a Tactile that was just completely different, their own little thing, and it was in the more of a middle tone. This is going to be a linear of that, and we're going to have to see how that is. So let's go right into this video, see the Switch information. Come join the Discord. I'll have the links in the description for you guys. You can come check it out and, discuss about different Switches, ask questions. I'm really trying to build a really like nice community, one where people support each other. One of the biggest rules I have is you're not allowed to swear at each other, and that's like really key. I really want it to be respectful and a really friendly environment. So please come check it out. Of course, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into this. So starting off, let's take a look at the Wingtree Yunie Linear. Now, thank you again, Unikey, for sending me this out. And one thing I have to always mention with the Wingtrees is that I love their packaging. The fact that they give you a box, they give you even this like Switch storage container is incredible. And you have to consider, when you buy these Switch containers like separately, you're looking anywhere between like $4 to $5. So really good deal when you consider that. Now, as you can see here, this is going to be the Switch information. So as you can see, just by taking a look at the materials, I think it's going to lean towards probably a little bit of a deeper sound, but let's go into the sound test and really see what it's like. Now this is the Yunie linear from Wingtree, and honestly my opinion is that this is a mid-tone switch. And what I mean by mid-tone is it's right between like a clacky but not, and not thocky either. It's right in the middle. I think this one is going to be a little bit more interesting compared to the Tactile, because the Tactile had a little bit more stem wobble. This one I feel like had a little bit less in terms of just like typing on it and using it. I actually really like the sound. So recently I did the Keygig M1 and I really like the M1s. This one's kind of similar in terms of like the sound preference and like the tone of it. Very, very similar to that. Of course, we're really gonna have to put it into the spreadsheet and like see what it actually comes out to be. So let's take a look at the information of the switch, take it apart, and really compare it in that spreadsheet. So let's go right into that. So let's take a look again with the information of the switch, just because we want to get a bit of a reminder. And I was kind of surprised. The switches had a little bit more of a, I would say, clackier tone than I thought. So I know I mentioned in the mid section that these kind of felt like maybe they could be deeper than the M1s, but overall, I might have been wrong about that. I was kind of in the mindset of after I tried it out with some of the other boards and compared to like my Neo 65, which usually tends to be a little bit clackier, which might have been the reason. Now, as you can see with the measurements, so 17.9 going all the way down to about 14.3, and then we're going to do another measurement here, so 17.9 to 14.4. So we're looking at the 3.5 millimeter travel distance, so that is correct as what they mentioned. So it's not a really long travel switch. And of course, we're going to take a look to see if it is a long pole switch as well, which most likely it's going to be. Now, taking a look at the stock lubing, right away you can see there's actually a decent amount of lubing with these switches. I would say that you would probably get these and you probably won't have to actually hand lube them at all. I would think that they did a pretty decent job with it. Now, there's lubing around all over the switch, so it's not even just the sides where the rails would be, but it's actually going to be on the front and back of the switch as well, and even lubing on the section of the stem where it's going to be touching the pins. So a lot of lubing all over the switch. Quite impressive. What I have to say is they did a decent amount of looping. It's actually even thicker than what an HMX or Keygig switch would be like. Now looking at the spring, so we're looking at a 21 millimeter spring. Now it's a single stage spring, and overall these feel quite light. I would say that the press feel of these switches aren't very heavy at all, and these springs have a decent bounce back without a lot of actuation force. So compared to say some of the other switches out there that are single stage and long spring, these ones had, I felt, maybe less of that actuation feel. Now overall, taking a look at the bottom housing to see if the pins actually have some lube on there, they actually do. So the pins themselves are also partially lubed, which kind of reminds you of like how the Keygig and HMX do it, but this one's much less than what Keygig and HMX does. So much less in terms of those pins. Now it is a long pole stem, and overall the stem itself, like you can see, the pole comes out a lot longer underneath. Yeah, so it's a longer pole stem, and you can really feel that when you are pressing and using these switches. Now overall, when I use them with the Secret, which has a top mount, I felt that these ones are actually quite nice to use with it. I had some other switches in there, and it didn't feel as nice in the Secret. Like I was using the Keybay Cheese V2. Now going into the decibel test, these switches aren't actually super loud. They're actually definitely a bit more on the quieter side. And you can even see that here when I'm doing the test, really up close mic. And if I bring the mic further back, where this might be the distance from the keyboard to you at your desk, this is like averaging around the 63 decibel. So very impressive in terms of that. I would say, yeah, they're definitely very quiet. I would say maybe it said 63, but when I did more testing, it actually ended up going towards even like averaging at 60. So not too loud of a switch compared to say some of the other stuff. Now checking out the actual actuation. So one thing you can see here in terms of pressing it down is that these switches can press down really lightly. They do have some actuation force, and because of that, when you are resting your fingers on top of the keys, you actually aren't going to have a ton of accidental presses. Say some of the lighter switches out there, you can accidentally press it. These ones definitely have a little bit better of that play there. But overall, when you do get past that point, it gets very light and it just goes straight smooth down. So this is something to keep in mind for yourselves, especially if you are someone that maybe prefers to have a little bit more of the heavier feel. Now, in terms of the stem wobble, now the top end, you do get a little bit of rattling, and this is very apparent right there when you are moving the switch around. So you do have some of that rattling there. Once you do press the stem down, you actually do get some stem wobble. Now, compared to the tactile version of this one, this is much less. So the tactile version actually had a lot more stem wobble compared to this, but it wasn't like a crazy bad stem wobble, but it definitely did have it. This one, you do see that stem wobble there, and it is going to move more in terms of like vertically, but there is some. And even when I press the keycap there, you can really see some of that movement that's happening. So if you are someone who's very sensitive to stem wobble, these probably aren't going to be the ones that you want to look at just because of that movement. Now the backlighting test. So going into the backlighting, these aren't actually as bright as I thought they might be. So compared to the rise switches, which has lighting that comes around and doesn't even have light diffuser, these ones are a little bit darker. So overall, not as bright as the rise switches, are not as bright as say some transparent switches out there, but decent in terms of the lighting. Now, another thing to note though is that these switches do have some blue hue to them, so the switch does affect the lighting. This is something to note for yourselves. If you are someone who likes white lighting, this is going to come off a light blue, and you're going to see it apparently, like less in the camera, but more in person. Now going into the actual spreadsheet. So this is my spreadsheet that I've been working on, and I've been adding some more switches in here so you guys can see like the Ink Black V2s, the Wingtree Studio Big Lucky Tactile. I've been working on this and I'm going to keep increasing it, of course. This is sitting at the 272. So these hertz is just a measurement in terms of like just the bare minimum. So when I do look at the graph's actually a lot bigger, and actually can go through like the attack to tone to like highs, and there's many like layers to it. This is just so that I can kind of give you guys an idea of where it's standing in between all the switches, and that way you guys can have an idea comparative to other ones. Now when I compare this with the M1s, which the M1s we did recently, which was a very mid-tone switch, this one is sitting a little bit higher pitched but a little bit quieter. So I thought originally that the M1s might have been a little bit higher pitched, but no, it's actually, I got it wrong, and even do the measurements, this actually shows it. The Wingtree's is going to be a little bit clackier in terms of the sound, so you're going to get a little bit more of that poppy sound in terms of the typing, which I actually found quite nice. Now overall, I think in terms of a CF plate, these sounded really good. Aluminum plate I wasn't as fond of, but still was working well. I would say go check them out yourselves. Like Wingtree's been coming up with a lot of stuff. It's really interesting to see what they're doing, and I really want to try more of their stuff. But overall, you guys can check this out. I'll have the links in the description with a 7% discount at Unikeys. Now I really hope this video helped you guys in terms of, you know, seeing is this a switch that you guys would like. I think it's quite an interesting one, honestly, in terms of like the mid-tone range. Definitely leans a little bit towards the like, I would say deeper tones in terms of that, but overall I did really enjoy it. It's quite interesting to use actually, especially in my Neo cores, like the Core Plus, so 65 Core Plus. I found it really nice to actually use it in there more than the M1s. So that's something that was kind of surprising to me. I actually really enjoyed these ones more than the M1s in the Core Plus. Of course, I'll have the links in the description for you guys. Go check them out yourselves. Of course, Unikeys has a ton of different switches, and you can get a discount 7% using my code Mikey, and hopefully, you know, you guys can save some money in terms of buying a bunch of switches. And the idea is pretty much I want to get you guys as much savings as possible. So hopefully in the future, you know, we can bring that up a bit more. Now, I'll have to catch you guys next time, but please go check out the other videos I got.